are live.
How we doing?
Hey, doing great, doing great. Excited to have everybody. Hopefully, going to be tuning in here pretty soon. And I tell you, it's been a whirlwind day and kind of cool down here at the coast. How about you up there in Raleigh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but like last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was great, right? We touched 70, and to be a little cooler. And I think tomorrow they told us high of like 42 and rain, but we're not in that snow belt from Colorado up to, I talked to Shanna Cooley today up in the Dakotas, and she was talking about a couple feet of snow. So we're not that, right? So we got to be careful how we complain.
Oh, I saw the video of her and her husband out there with like they had shorts on and they were scooping in the snow. It was absolutely amazing. So we're blessed. Tomorrow I think it's going to be 51 and rain here. So we've got AJ, Debbie, Stella coming on here. Sven coming on. Sven is up in the UK.
Late night owl for sure.
I tell you, he's out there. Annette Pass, thanks for joining us. And Denise, hey Denise, welcome. Got Kyle Nickel joining us. Good stuff. Good to see you on. There's Lisa coming in. Lisa, as you know, has been spending some time out on the lake in her brand new boat. Beautiful stuff.
Love it.
Yeah. She's going furniture shopping this Wednesday. And so then burning the midnight oil. I see. That's exactly right. Well, hey, listen, we're excited to have everybody on. And Eddie, I just want to tell you, I really appreciate you taking the time each month to come on the third Monday of each month and just, sharing with people, because it's so important and everybody loves this. I can see people continuing to join in, and whether they're able to watch live or whether they're able to watch the replay, this is one of the most highly tuned into events that I do on StreamYard, because it's always great to hear from the guy on the tower. And
I don't know about that.
Who's driving this ship and leading the way. And it's just so good. We got Mark coming on here, and there's Lori coming in. And so, Lori did, I think she made it back home she was down here at the beach. Yep, we do love it. Thank you, Eddie. So,
thank you.
I want to talk a little bit first about last month. It's just amazing what we've got going on right now. And a lot of that is just people sharing. So, I mentioned last month, somebody contacted me and said, hey, do we not have any promotions going on? And I'm like, which company are you with? No promotions going on. Let's see, we've got $13.83 on the Pure Body Extra, which is $50 off, and you don't even need to be worried about if you have a gift card or not. You just send them the promotion, and they get $13.80. Oh, and by the way, we're free shipping the Zeolite up.
Yes, we are.
I got a question from somebody yesterday, and I don't remember exactly who it was, and they said, it was Jesse Hall, who's doing the Toxin Telethon. And tomorrow night, and he said, what are all the countries we're shipping Zeolite to for free? And I said, it's a bunch. I don't know. Almost every country we're in, we're shipping Zeolite free, and so that's powerful. That really is powerful. And there's Stephanie coming in from Floyd, Virginia. Yep, welcome, Stephanie. And so, I think a lot of people. Right now is a great opportunity for people building a business opportunity with the promotions and with what's going on in the world and people looking for that. But I think the main thing is that, if you look at last month and look at our performance, we were up again. I think as a company, another, I don't know if it was a record, but it was a record February. I know that we were way up over the previous February.
Yeah, I'll give you some perspective. And for anybody, whether you're new or you've been around a while, you can probably appreciate some of this. So if in my position, one of the things I try to think about is, okay, what's the arc or the trend line that you're doing? What was it like 24 months ago, 12 months ago? And what are you looking like into the future? And so if I go back 24 months, I mean, probably 24 months from now, we'd all be like, that wasn't so bad prior to the pandemic, right? We think about that as not so bad. We're up approximately 9.5 times from 24 months ago. We're up 4.5 times from 12 months ago. And if I look ahead based upon just the trend line, and we're a large organization at this point, so making these numbers go this way is just difficult, but we're headed towards the same dynamic. Just to give everybody sort of a perspective, if I just calculate it out using the last 6 months and then the first 3 months of the year, we're on pace, or projecting the first 3 months of the year, we're on pace to add more than 250,000 people purchasing customers and VBOs to our community this year. And really, I'm being conservative. If I look at things sort of, when you've got word of mouth on your side, right? And the one thing that we're very fortunate to have is so many people are passionate advocates, for what we're doing, and in both respects, right? People's lives changing with the products. I was telling you, I was on the phone today with Shannon. We were on for a different subject, but she said, I can't let you get off the phone till I tell you about this person and how the product has changed their life. And that really is everywhere. And so that type of dialogue, that word of mouth, that sincere, that drives what we do, it's creating this growth, but not just, Alan, with the products. There's a lot of people, it's great that they've just had this relief package because of COVID, right? But people realize those are also temporary, right? At the end of the day, you're going to have to start relying on yourself and be in some type of income generating enterprise. That could be a job, or that could be an owner operated business. And so there's just this demand, right? And, I tell people in my career, I can say that I had 2 very distinct times in hindsight where I was at the right place at the right time. And you've been there too, I know, in your restaurant career.
Yep.
And it's hard sometimes to realize it when you're in the moment, but I just believe it's just very clear that right now we're in that moment. This is that place and that time. I realize I'm speaking narrowly about what we're doing as an organization. I realize it's still challenging for our nation, with still 1,000+ people a day dying from the pandemic. But the bottom line is this: if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a health advocate, I don't know that there's a better time, right? Maybe I'll say something different 2 years from now, because it'll be continuing on its growth. And so we'll see that then, but it's remarkable. And so we're every day in awe of what's happening with yourself, what you do, your dedication, hard work, and the team. It's fantastic.
Well, and I can't get away from this call without congratulating some of the big leaders that we had last month. We had a new regional director last month, Mark Atwood. Always excited about that. We had one of our Japanese folks reach director, and Kanemaru is how I'm going to pronounce his last name. His first name, I'm not even going to attempt to butcher that.
That's okay.
Quite a few national managers, regional managers. The rank advancements, when you look at those, and not only but rank advancement, when you look at the star bonuses and you look at what's happening now is the consistent growth. People aren't reaching these ranks. And then, we always talk about when you reach director, that's one of the toughest ones to reach, because you got to 3 times your business. And we coach people to say, hey, listen, when you reach director, don't be surprised if you don't reach it the next month, because that's a big jump. But what we're finding is not only are they reaching it and maintaining it, but they're running towards regional director.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of that pace that we're on. And so I was just talking to somebody today. Had a group of leaders together today, and we were talking about some strategies and some focus. And I said, what you have to think about is this: is we have to realize that right now, as you mentioned, time-wise, a lot of people are talking about the promotions and the $50 off in the product, and that's amazing. But right now we're in a time like we may never see again, to where, yes, people are looking for a business opportunity because they've realized over the past year, golly, I need to have a plan B, because my plan A may disappear in a minute. And not only that, but we're with a company who offers the top right now. Everybody's looking to detox and build their immune system and be healthy. And so with the product line we're offering, with our detox product, with our nutritional line, whole food, plant-based nutrition that improves and builds your immune system, supports your immune system, and helps your body be healthy. And then with the CBD to balance all that out, you always hear about the double-edged sword. And when it comes to just cutting your way to a future, we really have an amazing opportunity when we can say, listen, and this is what we were talking about. I said, you want to tell people, listen, we have this amazing opportunity to create some additional income on a part-time basis like you've never seen before that won't interfere with what you're currently doing. It's absolutely amazing. We've got to ask that question because so many people are hurting. So many people are hurting. It reminds me of the story of the lady who had a friend they were driving a Mercedes-Benz and they had a nice home and they all lived in a nice neighborhood. And with the COVID situation, her husband had changed jobs. You see, people don't share their struggles. They share their successes.
Right.
They don't share that. And so her friend said to her, tell me about this little side gig you got going, this thing you got going on with you're making money. Are you making any money? And she said she was embarrassed to say to her, well, I'm making about $700 a month. She said, I felt like I was kind of like, that's not a lot of money because these people had money. These people lived in the big house in our neighborhood and drove the Mercedes-Benz. And she said, yeah, it's doing okay. And I'm earning a little bit of money. Not a lot. And she said, well, how much are you earning? She said, I'm earning about $700 a month. And she said, I really wish you would have told me about this last year when you got started. And she said, really, would you have been interested? And she said, my husband lost his job and he had to take a new job and the pay is totally different. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I think we're going to lose our home. Hmm. And she said, $700 a month would have made all the difference in the world to us.
Sure.
And I think that so many times we just don't recognize we don't know what people are going through. So we've got to say to them, hey, listen, if you're interested, great. We'd love to share this with you. And if not, no big deal, because we've got the opportunity, but we've got the products to go with it. And that's, one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight with you. And we've got the great numbers and we're doing a lot of results, but not everybody's seeing those results. And I think that it's, I wanted to talk to you tonight about, and so that you can share. You've been doing this for 30 years, Eddie. I remember I was talking to Jeff Mack, and he said, when Eddie and I were on a roll, he said, we were on a roll. He said, we were hitting it hard every day. And he said, if we didn't personally bring in a bunch of people each week, we'd look at each other and go, what happened? Because we just got on this roll. And he said, it was all about the ask and all about the invite, and he said, we just invited everybody. And I think that some people, well, I know people sometimes struggle with whether or not they're the person who's like, well, I'm only making $300 a month. Well, I'm kind of new and I haven't started. Or the people that I know don't have a lot of money, or the people that I think would do well, they do have we tell ourselves these, what we're calling red light stories, before we even give the person the opportunity. And so I wanted you to kind of talk tonight about not only the invite process when it comes to the business and your experience with that, but also events. We've got an upcoming event, and it's going to be amazing. But each week we do a training call, and it's important to get people on a training call. We're doing an opportunity call on Tuesday and Thursday night with Craig, and he's got guests on this tomorrow night. As a matter of fact, Lisa Peterson's going to be joining him. I don't think she's going to be on her boat because it'll be nighttime. But the feedback that people are getting from that is just, they're like, wow, the content, the message is so powerful. So I wanted you tonight, if you would, to just talk a little bit about the invite process and your words of wisdom for people to build their belief, to build their encouragement to go out there and do a better job of that.
Yeah, I'm happy to, and I appreciate the nature of the question because, you're building a team. You're building a team of customers. You're building a team of others that want to build a business as well. And so at some point, you got to speak to somebody, right? If that's what you choose to do, to share with them what you're advocating for and what you're excited about. And one of the things that I empathize a lot for people, particularly that are new or haven't really done something like this before, right? Or maybe they find themselves a little bit shy. For a lot of people that meet me these days, you wouldn't think of me as being a little shy and hesitant to approach people, but that's where it started. Over time, my confidence changed, and so it's a little easier for me, but it didn't start that way. But just to kind of give this some grounds for reality, in my first 4 years, it was a struggle. I mean, the ratio of people I spoke to, and this is going to be correct within a percentage to of points, right? If I spoke to 100 people over a couple of month period of time, maybe 2 or 3 people, maybe 4 at best, actually took a serious look at what I was talking about, whether I was talking about the products or whether I was talking about the business. And there's a couple ways to interpret that, right? One is it can be frustrating. And you can say to yourself, well, it's not for me, or it doesn't work. I mean, those kinds of thoughts run through anybody's mind, anybody that's being honest about the little voices in their head, right? There's no question that's going on. In my case, I sort of looked around and I saw other people having success. Now, they were further down the road, right? They had been involved 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And I just said to myself, if they can, I can. I didn't see some distinguishing factor that made me think, well, they can do it, but I can't, right? It wasn't like when I watch gifted athletes perform, either hitting a golf ball or shooting a shot or something like that. And I go, well, they're 7 foot tall or whatever it happens to be, right? And I couldn't relate to their success. But these were people that of ordinary circumstances, I don't want to call them ordinary because they were great people, but they were of ordinary circumstances, ordinary backgrounds, and they were having success. And what I realized was they plodded along. Now, I know that doesn't sound sexy, but they plodded along and they got there, right? They found their voice. And so this is something for anybody that spends much time with me. There's a couple things I really want to emphasize. One is you got to find your voice. And for me, very specifically, what I mean by that, you got to learn how to tell your story. And when I began my career, I was excited. And I went out there and spoke to people about what I was doing, but I found a lot of people weren't interested. They weren't seeing it through my eyes. They didn't kind of understand the vision that I had in my head. And I was talking at them, Alan, and I wasn't talking to them. And so whatever excitement I had or whatever else it was, it kind of fell on these deaf ears. And so it wasn't until, I am the type of person that when I decide to do something, I won't quit.
Yep.
And the only thing I know how to do is to continue my activity rate. So I didn't shy away from the activity, right? I kept on with my pace. I kept trying to increase my pace because I did think to myself, if you do it enough, you're going to get better. And what allowed me to get better was I said it over and over again. And then I paid attention to what people were reacting to and not reacting to. And my words changed. And so one of the things I realized was I needed to say to someone, hey, Alan, I don't want to assume anything on your behalf. I found something I'm excited about. I think it's worth you giving me a few minutes of your time, but I'm not assuming interest, right? I just believe this is worth a look. So I learned to do that because before I would say, Alan, I need 15 minutes. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, you and I both know there's no greater thing, right? I mean, that's just not how the world works. And so I was automatically making people kind of push back, assume they knew what I was talking about, or be suspicious of whatever it happened to be. And it wasn't until I said, hey, listen, I don't want to assume anything on your behalf, but I found something, and here's what I found. This can provide some answers to me that I need. And at that point, I was working with a natural product that would help a person manage their cholesterol better. I had horrendous cholesterol and triglycerides and all these things. And so I would say, listen, I found a natural product to help manage my cholesterol. It's saving me from having to get on a drug that in my late 20s would have been sort of a bad idea, right, for my liver over time to do that. And, invariably somebody said, well, I kind of got those issues too. Yeah. Right. And so all of a sudden they were interested in that regard. And then when I talked about the opportunity itself, you get people say, you know what, I wonder what it would be like to have more money than month. Mm-hmm. Those things would come in. So it wasn't until I learned how to have a conversation with someone, which I know you're an advocate of, that you sort of pierced this veil of jadedness that exists. And that came because I learned how to communicate, not to put pressure on them, to say, I don't want to assume anything on your behalf, tell them my story. A fair number of them still weren't interested, but that's okay. I was able to have that dialogue and take it to the next level. And over a 3-4 year period of time, I connected with enough people. And then it's just like you said, when you're on a roll, your confidence grows.
Yes.
People can sense that. And I've learned over time that when people look at someone and they sense their confidence and they think to themselves, man, they're kind of headed somewhere and I don't know if I am. And all of a sudden they're wanting to pay attention because perhaps there's a perception you have something they'd like to have. And of all the things, you were talking about the lady in the neighborhood with the car, there's a heck of a lot more than that than meets the eye, right? Because no one really wants to play their cards, right? Nobody's putting a copy of their mortgage and a copy of their income or their W-2 on their mailbox, right? They're not doing that. So it isn't until you have those, what I call real, and it's probably overused, but kitchen table type conversations. And I, of the things that were different about me and others that maybe started when I did that didn't see the finish line is they just didn't finish.
Right.
I think the only way to lose is to quit. Now, it's not for everybody. I'm not suggesting that, but for somebody that has an entrepreneurial spirit, they want more than what they have. They're looking for a vehicle that can deliver both financial success as well as a lifestyle to go with it. There's a lot of ways you can have financial success. You're in the restaurant industry, right? I know managers in restaurants can make a lot of money, but man, that's got to be nearly 100-hour-a-week job, right? I mean, so there's a lot of ways to do those things. And so, for me, it was just about finding voice and perseverance. And the good news about that is it doesn't require talent. That just requires determination. And so anyone can do it.
It's funny you say that because, kind of where I wanted to go next was kind of right where you just said, which is I heard somebody make a comment the other day and it said, it doesn't matter whether you're from Yale or jail, you can build this business. You can build this business. And, a lot of times when we're looking to prospect people, as you call it, or reach out to people, we start telling ourselves stories in our head where we're looking for that perfect person. And I'm sure over your 30-year career, you've realized, when we look at the people on the team, when you look at the Jamie Lynn's of the world, who a year and a half ago was a homeless person, she was on a call with me today, and she said, when she was talking to somebody, she goes, it wasn't long ago that I was a homeless person, and I was struggling to figure out where to sleep at night, let alone where to make money. Now, I'm not encouraging you to go out and talk to all the homeless people in the town. But the point that I'm making is people, we have a tendency to be paralyzed trying to find that perfect person.
Yep. And the concept of diamonds in the rough and things like that. I mean, frankly, everybody has those perfect qualities, right? In some form or fashion. Some are more obvious than others. And so, and you said it at the start of this call, people judge and prejudge. And like you say, I mean, you want to try to find a target rich environment, right? Or a target group of people. They have qualities and things you admire. But the bottom line is, don't deny anyone an opportunity to tell you no.
That's right. That's right. What I love about when you say, who am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for people who are looking for an opportunity. And as Les Brown says, you're looking for people who are hungry for an opportunity, hungry for something different. Sometimes hungry doesn't mean I don't have food on my table. Hungry might mean I hate going to work every day for that boss who's they're just an ass to me. And they treat us badly. And I want out of this job. But what else can I do? Hungry may mean I hate telling my kids that we can't afford things. We're doing okay, but we're not doing what I would like to do. And hungry means something different to every single person you talk to. We just talked to a person the other day who Allison brought on board. And I said to him, so what would you like to earn in your first 30 days in the business? He said, I want to earn $674. And I said, oh, okay, 600. That's an interesting number. He goes, yeah. And I said, okay. And what are you going to do with the $674? And he said, well, I'm kind of embarrassed to say. And I said, well, don't be embarrassed to say. What is it? And he said, well, I got myself in a little trouble and I've got some fines to pay. And if I don't pay the fines in the next 60 days, I go back to jail and the fines are $674.
Hey, that's a good reason to go for $674.
Listen, he put me in contact with 3 people within about 4 hours because he's got a why. He's got a reason. He needs money,
Yeah.
And so many times we do that. And then, so inviting people is so important just to go out there and do it and be consistent. And I read a quote today that I really liked, and it said, have a commitment strategy, not an exit strategy. Have a commitment strategy, not an exit strategy. And I know over the years you've worked with thousands of people who came into the business and didn't take them long. They were probably looking for an exit strategy versus saying, I'm in for the long haul. Touch on that a little bit for people who feel like they're struggling.
Well, that's one of the most revealing aspects of somebody you're going to work with. So, for anyone just getting started, the minute you bring on a customer or you bring on a new person on your team, right? You're their support system, right? You're part of their leadership. You might be new, and so all you're trying to do is direct the traffic instead of providing the detail, but you're playing a leadership role. And so the minute that happens, you need to be a good listener, right? You need to be paying attention to what people are saying. And one of the things I quickly learned is that if somebody said to me in the initial conversations, anything that quantified the length of time they were going to try, like for example, I'm gonna give this 90 days. I'm gonna give it all I got for 90 days, and we're just gonna see where this thing sits from there, which seems like a innocent enough statement. And I've never thought about it being termed like you just did, that it's an exit strategy, but that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what that is. And it can come in all kinds of forms. Well, I'm gonna try this product for the next 30 days, and I'm gonna see what happens. And they may have been 30 years acquiring the weight they have and the bad habits, and just there's nothing out there that in 30 days is going to fix all those issues, right? I mean, that's just not how realistically things work. Somebody may lie to you about magic beans, but that's not realistically how life works. And so just how you've just pinpointed there, I'm going to work this until I reach my destination. When people displayed that kind of attitude, even if they didn't verbalize it in that manner, what it really said to me was I needed to pay close attention and provide as much of a springboard as I could. At the end of the day, they had to do the work, and I didn't need to try to provide a shortcut because they needed to learn what they needed to learn. But that's when I knew I had someone to invest myself emotionally, when it didn't come with an expiration date. And I never really thought about until just now the terms you're talking about, but that's a real signal. And so all the more important to just make sure when you're getting somebody involved, you're really listening, asking some questions. What's important to you about doing this? When we're successful a year from now, what's that image look like for you? I mean, that was always a good one, right? To get people to just kind of visualize it. A lot of people as adults, we get out into the regular working world and they don't spend a lot of time sort of visualizing what the success they have in their heart looks like. Mm-hmm. I think we get jaded as adults and we stop doing those things, right? I'll guarantee you, Alan, in your backyard when you were a kid, several times you went 3-2-1 and you made the buzzer beater to win the championship, right? Or that kind of thing. We don't do that so much as adults. And so it's good to listen for people that are having those images in their mind, in their head, because they got something and they're capable.
Yeah. My brother and I played many a basketball game, many of ACC championship games in our side yard, but we lived by the woods, and the hill went down into the woods by the creek. and we played late at night with the light on until the ball went down to the creek, and then we were afraid to go get it, and so the game was over. Whatever.
Right. Absolutely. I lived on a slanted yard as well. I feel that pain.
Yeah. So, it's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of times that, what if it takes 5 years? What if it takes 6 years? When we follow up with people and we get people started in this business, I think sometimes they're looking at it through rose-colored glasses. And I think the reality of it is, a lot of times we need to be very honest with people and say that. Somebody asked me the other day when I was talking to a lady I was talking to, she said she wanted to go and to sell products and sell CBD oil into some of the small shops around the beach area she lived in. And I said, hey, that's great. That's great. And she said, how much money can I expect to earn in my first 90 days? And I said, that's really kind of a tough question to answer, because it's really relying on you. And if you're depending on those folks, that's really, so, touch a minute on, if you would, on letting people, being real, getting people off to a fast start is so important. So important. You want to get them to enroll a few people in their first 30 to 60 days for sure. One, because when I enroll my best friend, I can't leave now because I got my best friend involved. But two, a lot of people come in and they misrepresent what the reality of it is income-wise in someone's first 30, 60, 90 days, maybe even a year.
Yeah. And so you've got to acknowledge that there's a variable there about how successful will be or not, right? If they talk to 10 shop owners, if that is a viable situation, if it meets all the qualifications, right, how many will do it? And so I always learn to back into it. And so I would have probably turned around and said, well, in 90 days, what do you see yourself earning? Let's say they said $300, right? I'll just pick a number, right? But it's probably not far off what people just sort of getting started working part-time might say to us. I'd say, well, here's what we know. As you get people going, there's a 25% commission on the points of the people you directly enroll for the first 90 days of their involvement. So let's just start there, right? And for most people, an adult and say a couple others in their household using some products, there's probably easily 100, 150 points worth of products they'll be buying on a monthly basis. But let's just say it's 100, right? And so based upon that, I think that probably means you need to be looking at anywhere from, say, 10, 12, 14 customers. And so can you see yourself finding 12, 14 people that need this product and would be willing to buy something to make an impact on their personal health? Well, most anybody floating around in the community over 90 days, right? That's pretty, they can identify that, right? They can see that in their mind's eye. Well, that's going to at least yield $300, right? It's probably more because they'll probably get into some of the rank bonuses and some of the things that we offer. And so what I've always tried to do is look towards that endpoint. What does the endpoint look like? And then back into those numbers. And so someone else may have a more clever way of doing that. But for me, that's what I always chose to do. And then for that person, as they went through the weeks and the months ahead, it's very identifiable what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Now, Alan, as I finish that, can I just go back to just a moment to something that you said there?
Sure.
One thing I want to say to everybody that I think is critical to identify both in yourself and in your conversations with other people. We often talk about this as this exercise to get to this endpoint, right? So I want to get to the point where I'm making the money to maybe leave my job or pay off my credit cards or buy a beach house or kind of whatever those definitions are. And part of the reason people are looking, if you had categories, right, they're looking at us because they're not as healthy as they want to be. Mm-hmm. They're looking at us because they're not making as much money as they want to. But the one that's maybe most prevalent that's not really spoke to is they're not happy in the work they're doing now or the journey that they're on. You know, we talk about what does this thing look like if you're successful 90 days from now, 120 days from now, but a lot of people aren't even thinking about what that's looks like in their current work. So, you know, you're doing what you do. If you keep doing it right with the company you're at successfully, what will be different about your life a year from now? Are you likely to be any more happy or satisfied with that? And those kinds of conversations can help people recognize their motivations and what's really going on, that they paused their busy day to look and talk with you, even if it seems different to them, right? Or different than what they're doing. And so it's important to realize that being successful is also about enjoying the challenges of the journey. And that's one thing as adults, we have the capacity and the maturity to do that maybe kids don't, right? Kids don't always understand value in practice or the grind, whatever it happens to be. And whenever you see a star athlete say, man, I just love practice, right? That's why they're a star athlete. They love the process. And so one of the things that did happen for me was I really fell in love with the process. I didn't relish failures or people saying no, but I realized it was a part of the process. And so that's also a part of this to realize for everybody. It's not just the end point. It's enjoying the process, the growth that comes from that. Once you do that, it becomes somewhat effortless, if that makes any sense at all. I mean, you're still making the effort, but it doesn't feel that way. You're enjoying the development of the relationships and the friendships that form in this journey. And so those are also parts of those dynamics that are creating that success.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. And, you know, that carries me to the next point. And that is the follow-up. You know, we were talking today on the Live at 11 and Denise Longton said, you know, most people don't become part of your team until you talk to them, you know, 3, 4, or 5 times. And she said that the statistics say 5 times to 10 times. You got to follow up with them at least 5 times before they say, yes, I'll come on board. And a lot of times people get, whether there's their feelings hurt or whether they think that, well, they just said no, so that's it. So when you were following up with people, you know, because you just said a minute ago, which took me to that, which is people aren't going to look at what you have to offer. People aren't going to, especially in today's fast-paced world, they're literally not going to waste their time looking at what you have to offer or talking to you unless there is some interest in some facet of what we have to offer. So when you were following up with people who said, yeah, I'll take a look, and whether it was a cassette, VHS, or today you got them plugged into a call on a Tuesday night, what was your process for, okay, so the call's over, and where do you go from here?
Well, one aspect of it was a discipline, and then I'll get back to sort of the intangible, right, the in-between. So the first one was, early on, I would say, hey, Alan, I'm going to put this VHS cassette in the mail to you. It seems so awkward now. And so I'm going to go down to the post office in the morning, mail it to you. And, you know, I did learn to say, so, you know, let's give it a few days and I'll call you early next week. Mm-hmm. That was abject failure. And it took me a while to really figure that out because I didn't define it clearly enough. It didn't seem important, right? My verbal cues were just not saying this matters to me so much. It was very casual. And so when it came to their home, it was a very casual thing as well, right? And so I learned initially to just walk them through the process. Say, here's what I'm going to do, Alan. On my way to work in the morning, I'm going to stop by the post office and I'm going to put this thing in the mail. Now, I just want to confirm with you, you're at 1002 Sycamore, right? Whatever. So I wanted them to see in their mind's eye that I was going to the trouble of putting this in the mail, going to the post office. And I would say, hey, you're just across town. I'll bet you'll have this day after tomorrow, Thursday. How about I call you after supper? We're usually finished here by 7:30 and trying to get the kids headed upstairs and do those things. 8 o'clock. Is that good for you? And I'll just make a note in my calendar now. So I learned to help them visualize with me what the process looked like so that they could really know he's really going to follow up.
Yeah.
I mean, this really, really matters to him. Now, here's something that I added over time. I used to, eventually I learned to talk to people that I didn't know, people that I just met out and about. And I remember a guy that I met, I was working in construction, then I did some work in furniture, and it was somebody receiving a shipment on a dock. Super nice guy, right? One of these guys that when you looked at his clipboard, I mean, his handwriting was so neat. He could have been an accountant, right? Checking things in. Something about the way the guy carried himself I was impressed with. And so I said, hey, listen, I don't want to assume anything. And by this point I'd gone to audio cassettes. I say, I'm going to give you a cassette, and you got a cassette deck in your car? Yes. I say, how long is that commute home? About 20 minutes. Oh, great. This thing's only 14 minutes long. Why don't you give it a listen? And then there's a McDonald's just up the street here. Why don't I meet you there in the morning as you're coming in? I've got to be out this way. We'll grab a quick cup of coffee. Well, they didn't always follow up, or didn't always go easy. I don't want to give that wrong portrait, but several times, and this time in particular, the guy comes in, right? And hey, and he sits down, and here's where here's what I'd learned to ask. I said, hey, listen, you kept this appointment. I'm assuming you listened to the cassette. Why did you listen to the cassette? I didn't ask what you thought about the information. What I really wanted to know is what motivated this guy to go out of his way to listen to me, a person he saw a few times relative to work issues, but didn't know me so well. And it just turns out that he just didn't have a lot of places to go in his company. And he was just more ambitious than that. And so he was curious about, was it really true what was on the cassette, that you could earn really whatever you put into it, right, over time? And so I found out what his itch was. And we talked about how this might scratch that. I don't know if that's a sophisticated enough way to say it, but there's art to conversation that everybody's capable of if they're really listening, if they're working on developing that emotional intelligence to kind of read the crowd and the audience. And when you do that, and when you can really make a human connection with people, I think we're all the same. I think we all have sort of the same concerns. We all have the same self-doubts. At the end of the day, we all want the same things. We want the best we can for our family and our kids. We want security, right? It'd be nice to have some extra money. And so you find a way to find out where that's at with somebody. And you know what? A lot of people, they kind of stuffed it in a corner. Life can beat you up enough to just stuff those things away. And so those are some of those nuances that with effort, with paying attention to yourself, you'll develop over time.
Yeah. And it's important for people to realize, especially that brand new person, that we all were not very good at this when we first started.
No.
And I still make mistakes. We all do. And that's just part of the business and and you're going to do that. But the more you do it, the better you get. It's just like hitting a golf ball. And golf is one of those technical games to where, these players that are serious about it hit 1,000+ balls a day, every single day. And so, if you hit it over and over and over and over and over, you're going to get better at it. And the same thing here is when you're talking to people, the better you're going to get better at it, and you're going to just recognize opportunities. It reminds me that I was on a call today with a lady, and I was looking on the internet at purchasing, and I saw, and it had a phone number, and I thought, I want to call first because you never know, you're just not sure about those internet things. And I said it was a class that I wanted to take, and it was an in-person, and so I called and I talked to her, and she's from Louisiana, a very nice lady. Her name was Tamara, and I said, Tamara. And I said, I'm looking at the internet, and I'm looking at and I wanted to get some information and find out about it. And as I was talking to her, I said, let me ask you, do you work on commission? And she said, yes. And I said, okay. I said, so I've got a call, and I'll never be able to call you back. And so I've got a call in 10 minutes, and can we get to, because I hate for you, really nice young girl. And I said, I hate for you to miss out on your commission. And she said, yeah, no problem. So we went through the process, and we got it all squared away, and I made the purchase, and the purchase ended up being $209. And I said, and I said, Tamara, let me ask you a question. And I said, you said you're on commission. I said, how much commission did you make on that sale? And she said, do you want me to be honest? I thought, and I said, absolutely. I want you to be honest, because it was a $209 sale. So I'm thinking she might, when she said, do you want me to be honest? I'm thinking she's going to say she made $100
Right.
off the deal. And she said, I made $3.
Ooh.
And I said, we just spent 16 minutes on the phone and you made $3. And she said, yes, sir. And I said, do me a favor. I said, you just took my information down and you just took my email down. Send me an email, because I'd love to share. You've got a great personality. You're a super nice lady. And I know what y'all do in the customer sales and telemarketing is tough. She goes, I hate it. She goes, I don't like it at all. And I said, just shoot me an email. And I'd love to send you. I'm going to send you a video to watch. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, no big deal. And I think that's something that you said a minute ago that is so powerful when you said, in different words, you said, this may or may not be for you. This may or may not be for you, because, and that just takes the pressure off. But if they're willing to listen, and then we got to follow up. And so the person comes on board, and, I heard a thing, and we'll end with this and just let you finish up with any last comments. But I heard somebody say the other day in a call, and we were talking about, and they said, and I wrote it down because it was just so important. So when you're talking to somebody. So if I'm talking to you, Eddie, and you say to me, Alan, yeah, I like that, but that's just too expensive. That Advantage pack, that's just too expensive. And if I said, let me ask you a question, Eddie. If you were a millionaire and money was no object to you whatsoever, and the $609, because I'm giving you a $50 gift card, the $609, do you like what you see? Would you spend the $609 to be involved and to partner with me? Or is it truly that currently the $609 is more than you just don't have the money financially able to spend $609 to start a business that could be lucrative to you? Or is it that you're not interested at all? Which one of those is it? And so a lot of times they'll say, well, the reality of it is that I just don't have the money. All the more reason that we need to pursue this, because you clearly took the time to get this far into the conversation. And so when you talk about, and I don't want to go into a long thing about overcoming objectives, but what you mentioned a minute ago when you said there's a reason that they're spending time with you and listening. We just have to find out what that hurdle is, to get them over, to get their what is their point of entry. And one of the things that we do here, and I like, one of the things we do here that I love but I don't love is the affiliate program. The affiliate program. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, we did a 3-way call, and I said, great, they'll get you signed up. Let's get it going. And I called, and I said, I didn't see him in the back office. What happened? He said, well, he doesn't have the money until Friday. And I said, well, let me help you how to do that going forward in the future. You say, great, no problem. Let's go ahead and get you signed up. Go ahead and get your website. Let's talk about, because this was on a Monday, let's talk about what you're going to do between now and Friday to earn some money in addition to that. But we'll go ahead and get everything set up, get your website started, and teach you how to invite people. And then Friday you can order your product. So you just take away those barriers. And so is that kind of how you approached it, as like the assumed close or the positive approach?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great solution, right? And one of the aspects of the affiliate program that's, I think, quite successful is if you get somebody in a sincere situation like that. Now, it can also be a crutch, right? And so that's probably that downside of it. And it takes some discernment to figure that out. I'll tell you a challenge I gave myself. And so this is going to be one of those things where I know what makes me tick, right? Yeah. And so for those listening, right, you'll have to think about this in context to your own self. when I called someone and they told me what I felt like was the same excuse, Eddie, I like what I'm seeing, I just don't have the time. Or Eddie, I like what I'm seeing, I just don't have the money. I decided that for me, it was better to think about those as being the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the way I interpreted that was I didn't do a good enough job along the way of helping them develop a vision, or in their mind's eye, them being successful with this and that they could do it. I always felt like when somebody was listening to me, they were sizing me up. And that's maybe because we all do that to some degree, right? Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book, Blink. He said in fractions of a second, people size people up, right? And they don't necessarily mean anything bad by it, but I always felt like people were looking at me thinking, I don't know, what's he doing? Can I do that? Do I want to do that? Right? And if they didn't find some yes in there, then any excuse would work. I don't have the time, I don't have the money, right? All those things would kind of work. And so it was better for me to take that as the challenge and try to get better of saying, Alan, this is how this would work. I know you're busy. I know that you've got kids and family obligations and all these things going on. And so here's a real key. You're going to use the tools, and you'll use myself and some other people that are part of the team. You'll leverage your time through us. So even if you've only got about 15 minutes a day, we're going to try to make 15 minutes look like 2 hours through the tools of the website, other things in that regard, right? And then the other thing, and I would just tell people up front, I would say, listen, when we get into the cost here, I mean, I don't want to dismiss the fact that there's some cost, but I don't, because this isn't a $1 million franchise, I don't want you to assume the opportunity is not large. And so I learned to make sure that my conversations with people imaged about time and leveraging modest amounts of time, and said to them that I felt like this was as powerful an opportunity as $1 million Subway franchise or whatever that happens to be, even though it costs just a few $100s. And so that turned out to be the best way for me to get ahead of those situations, because invariably I could feel it coming. And so for those listening, right, there's no right answer here. There's the way that works inside of my world, in my personality. So you can, just as Alan described, walk them through those cost dynamics, or you can do it as other. But at the end of the day, I think most people, here's an analogy that was used a lot around me, was if they woke up tomorrow and something was wrong with their car and they couldn't get to work, they'd find some way of fixing the car, even if it was $1,000, right? So they figure it out if there was an earnest belief that if I fix the car, I can earn the money to retire the debt. If they used a credit card here, if I work the business, I'll earn the money to pay off the credit card, right? Those are loops to me. And that's part of our dynamic of knowing who we're talking to sort of manage how people's perceptions are.
It's kind of going ahead and addressing the elephant in the room before they bring it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely it. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about it. And let me tell you how that's not really an obstacle. And let's move forward.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I want to encourage everybody on here tonight who's listening to this is if you've gotten value from this, and I don't know how you haven't, because, Eddie brings 30 years of wisdom and knowledge, and he's truly an expert in this industry and has had major success. I want to make sure that, this is recorded on the team page. And so make sure that if you see people or you share, tag your people in here who need to listen to this, or let them know, hey, listen, I got so much out of this. I see the people that were commenting on here and putting the things on here and saying yes, and I see that and bringing the value and how they love this. And I always love coming together each month, Eddie, and just being able to listen to you share, the wisdom and the knowledge, and bringing a perspective that just always brings those pearls of wisdom to us each and every time. And so I want to encourage everybody, hey, don't just be a taker, but be a giver. Share this information with other people and take what you've learned today and heard Eddie talk about and put it to work in your business tomorrow. And I promise you, you're going to see results. It might not be tomorrow. It might take 30 to 60 days. I've heard Eddie say many times, this is a 90-day business. What you do today, you start reaping those 90 days from now.
Yep, that's right.
And that's so important. So Eddie, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you for all you do and setting up the calls. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Everybody have a blessed night, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
All right, rock and roll.